ladies and gentlemen, episode number 169 of Let's Go Racing. Tyler Jones, Dominic Aragon here with you as we are in the off-season now. But there is no off-season here on Let's Go Racing. We have a fantastic guest joining us for our 169th episode. No one we'd rather have for an episode involving those numbers than Greg Biffle. He'll join us coming up in just a minute. Chris Lafferty also here with us as well. NASCAR driver, also a country music recording artist, and he just finished up a fantastic tour. We'll catch up with him as well coming up in just a bit. Dominic joins me right now. Dom, loaded show, our final show before we take a few weeks off here, but so much to discuss with Greg, what's going on with him, with Chris, and then some of the stories unfolding and kind of a tease for later, but we're setting up right now for one of the most interesting off seasons in a long time.
Oh, certainly. So many things to keep track of. We're 88 days from the Daytona 500, but there's still so much between now and then that needs to get decided on the track, business dealings, of course. But yeah, Tyler, we talked with Greg. He's been on the show before, and he told us when we had him on for episode 69, hey, you let me know when episode 169 rolls around. I would love to be your guest. And hey, here we are 2 years later.
Chris, appreciate you being here with us, man, and joining the show this week before we bring Greg in. Chris, what's going on in your world? Tell me about the great stuff you've been doing, man.
You know, guys, I just want to say it's great to see you guys again. It's been a while since we've spoke. I think last time we crossed paths, I was out on tour, direct support opening for Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Glenn Hughes, which I was honored to do that. I've had it. Had a blessed life, doing the NASCAR thing, doing this music thing, and either running 180 or standing on stage performing for people. So it's not a bad gig for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Dominic, give us the rundown. Greg Biffle, you know him, you love him. He was a NASCAR Hall-of-Fame nominee this past year and had a fantastic career, and he's still doing some fantastic stuff these days.
He's still doing fantastic things. I think there's still a lot more to write in what Greg Biffle's got planned down the road, but nonetheless, a great guest we've had, a recurring guest over the years here on Let's Go Racing, and was happy to do episode 169 when we were going to be doing it, and here we are this week. Greg, thank you so much for joining us this week here on Let's Go Racing.
Absolutely. Glad to be here and excited to be on episode 169.
Greg, I think this has got to be a tradition. Anytime we have an episode involving the number 6 and 9, like you got to be back here. We need you for 196, and we need you for 269 as well.
Well, you know how to get a hold of me. I'll be here.
Greg, what's new with you these days? What's going on in your world, man?
Just same old thing. Having a bunch of fun driving whatever I can. I just raced the 2.4 hours of Le Mullets down in Florida with Cletus McFarlane and that gang. We had a lot of fun down there, and unfortunately we had an engine failure early in the race. Probably first 2/3 or first third of it, maybe halfway of the first segment. The engine expired, but we were up in the front leading, so that was fun. Got the car up there, led a little bit of it, but didn't get done what we wanted. So now I'm back out doing some off-road stuff, things I love to do, so I'm having a good time.
And Tyler, I know he's not going to bring it up, but I will bring it up. Certainly the efforts we've seen with you and your close associates and everybody you've been able to do to rally around in the NASCAR community and everything that you guys are doing in Western North Carolina and the relief efforts there with Hurricane Helene. We've been, of course, following that very closely on the show, but did you ever think that the efforts, the donations, everything that you guys are doing would have blown up the way that it has when you took that first helicopter ride out a few months back to go and take initial supplies?
No, absolutely not. I had no idea. And it's funny, I've told the story a few times. The Saturday morning I got the call, a friend of mine texted me, "You want to go flying today?" ? And sent me a Facebook link to a family that was stuck up in Banner Elk. And so at that point, I thought I knew there were some trees down and power out. I thought I was helping one person or one family. And, it was so underreported. And nobody had any communication, obviously. We just had no idea, 60 miles away that they had that kind of devastation take place. And so what started out on a Saturday morning, 11, 12 days later, from flying from sun up to sundown, and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers and probably nearly 100 helicopters flying. It was just an amazing operation, and obviously it's still going on. And I think just the scale of it is the difficulty, because you can't see it. We could see Hurricane Katrina, we could see Hurricane Sandy. You just can't see what has happened up in these mountains, and it's hundreds and hundreds of miles. It's not Asheville, it's not Guantanamo or Black Mountain or Old Fort or Little Switzerland. It's from South Carolina all the way well into Virginia and Tennessee, and it's every road and bridge taken out and power line, and it's absolutely astonishing when you see it from the ground and from the air.
Yeah, that's something else. And Greg, for folks that don't know, kind of tell me what you guys did over those last few weeks of helping people and that process. How you mentioned kind of how it started. How did it evolve from there? What did you guys end up finishing up with, and kind of the lives you impacted and helped out with? What was that all like?
So really, the way it started was, getting supplies into the communities, because these mountain communities are thousands and thousands of people, but they're just connected by roads, along the mountain, along the mountains, and so all the roads are gone, and so the amount of people that were stranded without, a few days, no big deal, right? But there were medication issues. I flew a tremendous amount of insulin and other medications into these areas. Not only is the road washed out, the bridge is gone, but there's a tree down about every 20 feet on the road. So you're talking about 20 miles of a road. There's thousands and thousands of trees across the road. So as the people tried to get in or out, they would, saw these trees down or try and saw these trees up and move them. Well, one, they'd run out of gas, they run out of bar oil, they run out of the chainsaw chain goes dull. And so we're literally flying in chainsaws, chains, bar oil, gas, other supplies, food, water. It was so incredible to see. Another thing that we were able to do, we were able to fly in Starlinks. So everybody was cut off. So we didn't know what the needs were. If there was a medical emergency or someone had to get out or someone was sick or hurt. So we, through a friend of a friend of mine's on the board of Polaris, which has a board member on SpaceX. They got us 300 Starlink units.
Wow.
Literally overnight. They showed up at my shop about 5:30 in the morning. The guy drove all night to get them there. And then we took them straight to the airport and got them on the helicopters and delivered these 300 Starlink units into areas, first responders, basically all throughout the area, so that communication could start, taking place. But it was an effort by the people came out of the woodwork to help. It was amazing to see the, camaraderie that exists, and, just people helping people. It was an incredible situation, and they're far from out of the woodshed. I was up there this last Sunday delivering supplies. Now we're taking stuff by ground because we can get in to most places now. There's still a small amount of helicopter operations, still going on. But it literally looks like it happened about 4 days ago. And it's been months, or, a little over a month. But it genuinely looks like, just because it's going to be years before these people are going to be able to get all these trees and all this brush and all this trash and cars and containers and yard debris, and just things that have washed down every side of the road and all over the place. It's truly amazing. And a lot of the folks, they said that some of these folks won't have power till the spring.
Wow.
3 to 5 months before they'll have power. It's freezing up there now, and they've already had the first snow.
No, certainly. You've been keeping us very much informed of what's been going on, and certainly making the impact where you can. And I'm just curious, Greg, 'cause I know you've touched the lives of thousands of people here. I'm just curious if you've been hearing a lot of follow-up stories to the people that you and your teams have been able to help, or if there's any stories that really that stand out, like follow-ups or updates to these people that you've been able to help impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Husqvarna delivered us tractor trailer loads of chainsaws. Garment Tactical brought us boots. We got the Starlinks in. And so we've been able to, stay in touch with some of these, first responders, and then some of these just mountain people, right? They're tough. A lot of them didn't want to take the help. It seemed like they knew they were in bad shape, but they're just not that type of people. They kind of depend on themselves and have always worked it out. But we've been in touch. In fact, I talked to Aaron today, and a guy I met early on up there that was helping his neighbors and helping the neighborhood and all the folks. So there's great stories, there's sad stories, but they are getting along, and things are, slow but sure they'll get themselves, kind of back to normal, if you will. But it's going to be some time before they're able to, lots of people are getting RVs and trailers and fifth wheels and things like that to stay in and live in. Housing is the biggest thing now. Is shelter and housing for a lot of the folks.
And you touched on it, but I feel like, and I've heard this in news reports too, that there are some areas that it's going to take years for a lot of these places to get back to 100%.
Yeah, it's going to. It's hard to explain, but every road you go down, every side road you go down, the ditch is washed out, the roads washed out, there's trees down everywhere. Anywhere that was near any kind of flooding, obviously, there's piles of brush and plastic and debris, and there's I saw a gas can. It's up in the haunch of this tree, like 30 feet in the air. By the time just all this stuff is cleaned up, there's again, I just keep going back to the scale of it. It's like, who is going to clean all this stuff up? The state, the county, the residents, there's only so many of them. And it's just so, every single road you go down, there's just trees and stuff and flooding and some mudslides and power substations that need to be put back in and power poles. It's, you drive through there and it's just, and you can go 100 miles away and it looks exactly the same, and pick any road you want to drive down. So it's just going to take them a long time to get back going again. And the other thing I think about is all these people's normal way of life, their job, where they worked at the little automotive shop down the road, or worked at farming or whatever they might have done. Their job's not around anymore, or for a fair amount of them anyway. So it's just, it's kind of all, the scale is quite large on how many people it impacted and what they're going to be able to do to get going again.
Chris, go ahead.
Man, I was out in California on tour when the storm hit, and nobody thought that it could be as bad as it was. And it took my mom calling me and saying, hey, the news is talking about how the mudslides just absolutely wiped out Asheville. And I'm going, how is this even possible that a storm could reach that far in? Now, I mean, I know, Greg, I know you're a humble guy, and I've been a fan of yours, way back when, being a Truck Series guy. And man, I have to say, man, it's really cool. It's really cool to see what you've been able to do, in helping those guys, flying in to help them, taking in supplies and impacting so many people's lives. So absolutely kudos to you, Greg. And I know you're not looking for any of that glory, but man, it's really cool to see that. I mean, that's a Hall of Fame thing right there. I don't know if anybody's doing it, but somebody should write a book about you for sure.
Well, I appreciate it. It's funny in people's, people say, how long are you gonna, continue to help, or it's like none of us quit, right? Every time right now I'm out of town, but I go back and I get sucked back in, because you feel like you can do something to help. And when we were flying on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, it was just like, more. It was everything you could do to try and get, things on the ground and help these people. And I'm the same way. It's like, how is this possible? Like, when was the last time a hurricane hit the mountains? It's unheard of. It hasn't happened. And so first responders don't know what to do. FEMA doesn't know what to do. It's just, nobody was prepared for it. And nobody had the playbook on what do we do next, and how do we fix this situation? But they literally got 30 inches of rain.
Yeah, there was no playbook.
Well, right. And these steep mountains, you think about these V's where they come down to a V. Well, all that water goes straight to the bottom instantly. And the roads were underwater by 60 feet. So the water's in a lot of places was 40 to 60, even more feet deep over, the roadway. So it was like nothing anyone could you can't even picture it in your head what it looks like.
Well, you're talking about flooding in the mountains. I mean, how does that it doesn't make sense.
Right, exactly. And so as it started to get down to some of these lower areas, the devastation it brought was nuts. I mean, there's hundreds of trees, 3-foot around trees and stumps, 20 feet around, just mowing down anything in its path. 18-wheelers upside down in the river. I was flying the helicopter. I just saw the bottom of the tires. The entire truck is under the water. And I could just see the bottoms of the tires. I mean, propane tanks look like candy down the sides of the rivers and up on the banks and all over the place. There's some canyons you fly down for 5 miles. There's no resemblance of a road on either side. No road bed, no piece of asphalt, nothing. Like zero. looks like the Grand Canyon.
Jeez. Well, and Greg,
Definitely heartbreaking.
absolutely. And you're seeing so much over these last few weeks, and I know it's a lot to process. How do you process what you're seeing? And I mean, you always hear about people that respond to these kind of scenes and these unique disasters and stuff, but like, do you have anybody checking in on you? Because I mean, you're seeing so much, and how are you processing, and how have you been able to process and decompartmentalize everything you've been seeing and trying to do over the last bit of time here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what kind of sucks you back in, and once you want to try and continue to help, because like I started out to say earlier, is I don't feel like I did anything anybody else wouldn't have done in my particular situation. I had the resource, I had the time, and social media is good and bad. It created a buzz around the situation and brought a lot of other helicopters and machines out. But I saw a bunch of stuff I certainly don't want to see, and along the riverbanks and just all over the place. I will say one story: there were search and rescue and cadaver dogs looking, trying to find people, and I landed on the edge of what was left of this roadbed, and they had painted an X on the ground. I was delivering a Starlink, and it was one of my old team guys I know, friend of mine, and I gave him the Starlink, and we chatted for 20 seconds there, and then I took off and lifted off and left. And he texted me that next day. I landed next to this huge pile of brush that was in the riverbank right there. He said they found someone alive the next day in that pile of brush. And that was day number 8 days in to the aftermath, and there's stories like that make you feel good about being able to get the supplies in and the resources to the people that are looking for, people that maybe stranded in some of those areas still.
That's something. Greg, incredible efforts by your part and for helping people. Just a valiant effort, and can't even say thank you enough just for what you've done there, Greg. Just admirable stuff on your part. Let me ask you about what's going on the racetrack, Greg. Any chance we see you back in some big time racing anytime soon? I know you said you were doing some racing just recently. Could we see you in Daytona potentially in February or anything like that? Anything in the cards?
I don't have anything in the works right now. So I would say, Daytona in February is probably slim. I definitely will be there. I love that time of the year, and I love Daytona. So I'll be down there wandering around. But as far as being behind the wheel, it's probably unlikely this year that I'll be there, but I want to put something together and run another 500 in a good competitive car. So I need to get off my butt and start working on it and find a good car to drive.
There you go.
Well, and you won at Daytona before, and we've seen like your former team, Roush, RFK Racing now do an extra entry this past year and such. I would imagine, Greg, that when that opportunity comes, there's got to be somebody out there that could put together a good situation for you here.
Yeah, I think there is. Roush has that second car. David Reagan's driving her third car. I know Penske's fielded a few cars. So there's definitely some opportunities. I just need to go start shaking the trees and get something worked out.
Well, one name that came across our desk here, Greg, he was on SiriusXM this past week and talking about how he was planning on entering a car for Daytona 500 again. Got him in that Ford family as well, and open team here, but I know that they've been improving their equipment over the year. He's been on the show before. Carl Long and MBM Motorsports. Do you know Carl? Any chance we could see you in that MBM ride if they were to land?
Yeah, I know. I've spoke with Carl a few times. We were discussing about potentially running St. Louis and other stuff, but anything's possible. So I'm definitely not ruling anything out for for running a few races here and there.
And I got to tell you, Tyler, I think the perfect scenario, we have Greg back in a Daytona 500 car, and we have Chris doing the pre-race concert for the Daytona 500. How does that sound?
There we go. I like that.
That wouldn't hurt my feelings a bit. I'll tell you this. I'm ready to jump into a bad car. It's like, you go to the racetrack. It's like a crackhead watching other crackheads do crack. And man, it's like, I'm just itching to get back behind the wheel. But it's one of those things. I'm dying to do a pre-race concert. I'm dying to sing the national anthem in a race that I'm racing in. And so that'll happen before I fully retire for sure.
There you go.
I like that idea. While we're mentioning Daytona, Greg, that's where you got your first Cup win. Obviously, a special place, but I all the times we had you on this show before, I don't think we've even talked about that. Take me back? What was that day like when you won the Pepsi 400 there, that rookie season of yours there at Daytona?
I'll tell you what, it was a great day. There were split pit strategies, obviously, and half the field had stopped and half the field didn't. And I had some fast cars, Bobby Labonte and a group chasing me down, but we were able to cycle out in the front. And I just remember my car was so loose. I was just praying that they wouldn't get any closer to me, because my car was just so loose. They would take the air off the back of it a little bit. Not like these days. These cars these days drive stuck to the ground pretty good, but I do remember that race and trying to milk that thing to the finish line, try and stay out in front of Bobby. And then he ended up running out of gas going down the backstretch on the final lap, which gave me some breathing room, which was really nice. But I remember it well. I think everybody does their first win.
Oh yeah, that's great. One more thing I don't know if Dominic or Chris have anything else before we get to our news and notes, Greg. But last time we had you on, you were a candidate for the NASCAR Hall-of-Fame. Didn't work out this go round, but I imagine that you can get in there someday, whether it's next year or down the road. Greg, what was that process like? What was it like to be nominated and at least be recognized? I imagine even if you didn't get in, it'd be still something cool that.
It was really neat. I mean, I was kind of shocked by the nominee, and when I got the call from Mr. Mike Helton, but it was special, and I feel honored to be in that group of just being nominated. So it's something special. And hey, look, if I've got 10 years to work my way in, if you will. So once you're nominated, you're on the ballot for 10 years, and hopefully one of these years I get voted in. That's what it boils down to. But now that I've been nominated and on there, it's I don't want to say it's downhill from here, but that's a big hurdle, is to get that part out of the way. So now I just got to get the votes and get voted in.
Well, you got our vote for sure, Greg. Would love to see you get in there. Chris, Dominic, anything else before we move on to headlines here?
Well, I mean, for me, Greg's era of NASCAR racing was so inspiring for guys like me. So it's like it's just a matter of time till he's in, man. And it's first go around didn't happen, but I see it. I don't see a Hall of Fame without a Greg Biffle in it, and that's just coming from a guy that looked at your era, Greg, as one of the great eras of NASCAR.
Yeah, it was a great time. I think about it all the time, of the time I spent in NASCAR, and it was a great run. Through all the years I was there, and got to race with a lot of great people, Mark Martin and Sterling Marlin and Earnhardt. It was a great time, and the sport changed a tremendous amount. was able to win 56 times over the series, and it was that third championship though, just still, it's bittersweet. If I could have closed the deal.
Will a Hall of Fame induction erase the maybe the mark there of no Cup championship for you?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you are able to get into the NASCAR Hall of Fame someday, will that kind of be maybe a consolation for not getting that NASCAR Cup Series championship? Will that kind of maybe erase some of it?
Yeah, I think so. Yes and no. It's just, gosh, I wanted to be the first guy with all 3 championships, and not only that, but just a Cup title. But if I do get in, that will certainly ease the pain a little bit. But just so close to that third title that in 2005 and 6. So it was. But yes, it somewhat. I'll tell you, it's that big trophy sitting in the center of the trophy case is certainly nice.
All right, let's talk about some headlines in the sport. Plenty of news going on, and we'll get Greg and Chris's thoughts on some headlines as we're well into the offseason now. Dom, we got some driver movement.
We do. Well, if the NASCAR silly season and off season, all these changes ahead of the next year was like a puzzle, and we had like 100 pieces to the puzzle every year, 2024 would be like 1,000-piece puzzle, Tyler. But at the time of this latest recording, we do know that there are a couple of moves to announce here as of Tuesday, November 19th, rather, with you having Todd Gilliland moving to the anchor car at Front Row Motorsports, taking over the 34 with continued partnership with the Love's Travel Centers in 2025. He's been with FRM the last 3 seasons in the next gen era, as well as Ryan Preece making the move over from the now defunct Stewart Haas Racing to a third chartered car at RFK Racing, carrying over some of that Kroger sponsorship that he did have at the JTG Doherty camp years ago. But certainly a good move there for Ryan Preece. And they're taking a lease charter from RWR, Rick Ware Racing. So certainly some big moves here already in the first week of the offseason, Tyler.
Greg, let's get your thoughts on those moves. Todd Gilliland, we know he's got talent. Getting to the anchor car at Front Row Motorsports, that's a nice promotion. And then Ryan Preece, you were there in the best days of Roush when they were a 5-car operation. We won't see those again, but I would imagine somebody like you's got to be excited to see RFK going back to 3 cars. That's a huge step in the right direction for that organization. What's your thoughts on those 2 moves, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. Getting back to 3 cars, getting that information, just being able to try or test more things and having more cars on the racetrack can, basically always helps you. So it's good to see those guys being able to get a third car back going, and Gillen, hopefully he'll continue to hone his craft and can do some good things for that front row guys.
Chris, what's your kind of takeaways on these 2 moves here?
Well, I mean, anytime you see good talent moving to well-established and the especially Roush is like a next generation of life for Roush. It's always neat seeing that. I mean, it's not as neat as seeing Greg Biffle land a dang helicopter and drop off supplies, but it's still neat.
Dominic, with Ryan Preece, he was the last one of those Stewart Haas guys to find a ride. And you could argue he ended up now in a better situation than he was at Stewart Haas Racing. What a turn of events for him to end up with a Cup ride. And then when it's all said and done, for all 4 of those Stewart Haas drivers to end up in Cup rides with how things ended up. And Cole Custer got promoted too. I mean, for as bad of a situation that was, realistically speaking, it worked out pretty good for all 4 drivers here.
you could argue certainly a fairy tale ending for all of these drivers, right? The doom and gloom of a team shutting down. You never know what that next step is going to be. And all four have landed on their feet. And of course, too, the hundreds of employees that work at Stewart Haas Racing. You're hearing stories of these team members landing at other teams, some staying retained with this Haas factory deal. So really cool to see that. And I think too, with Todd Gilliland making that promotion at front row, and that team promoting from within to that 34 car is its anchor car. And there's been some good drivers in that car over the years. So very fitting to see these moves. Very fascinating to see these other pieces of the puzzle come to light.
What else we got, Tom?
So the summer of 2025, Summer of Jones, as you dub it, Tyler, will have a new look at the broadcast booth this year with Adam Alexander, Steve Letarte, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. all going to be calling the stretch of races for Prime Video and TNT Sports. So it was announced earlier this week that 10-race stretch, Adam Alexander moving over from Fox Sports, Steve Letarte also staying with the NBC booth, I might add, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. making a return to the broadcast booth after an absence last year, will be united for that 10-race stretch, which kicks off at the Coca-Cola 600 on May 25th and will conclude at the Brickyard 400 on July 27th. And some of those races that would include in that schedule include Nashville, the inaugural race in Mexico City, the super speedway style race at Atlanta. You have the two back-to-back road events of sorts with the Chicago Street Race and Sonoma Raceway. So it's certainly a good variety that we're going to see with this stretch and these broadcast puzzle pieces being put together.
Yeah, glad to see Dale make his return after having the year off. Certainly wasn't the same not hearing Dale Jr. call races. We're going to get plenty of Steve Letarte next year between those two networks and NBC. And I'm happy for my guy, Adam Alexander. Adam's been a friend of mine, been a mentor of mine for a long time, and just a consummate pro. I mean, he has carried himself with such professionalism, and to get the call back up to the Cup Series, returning to TNT where he was at previously. Greg, I know you know all those guys, Double A and Letarte and Dale Jr. I don't know about you. I'm excited about that booth. I think those three will do a really good job with Prime Video and TNT. What do you think about that new trio here?
I really do. I like Adam Alexander a lot. I think he's a good broadcaster and carries himself well. So I think that's going to be a good addition to the broadcast. I like the lineup, and Junior back in there. I think it's going to be good.
Chris, I know that you try to watch these races as much as you can and know these guys. What do you think of that pairing there for Prime Video and TNT with Adam, Steve, and Dale?
Well, I mean, look, as a racer, when you see guys like Adam Alexander, Steve Letarte, and Dale Jr. climbing back in the seat there, it's good to see guys like that it's not smoke and mirrors. I mean, it's guys who have been there for a long time, and Letarte from on top of the pit box, and Adam's been around forever, broadcasting on this, and then Dale Jr. from the seat. And he's always fun to listen to just because it's a simple language that racers can understand.
Yeah. And Dominic was talking about kind of the puzzle of things with the driver's side. Now we're seeing like the puzzle of the broadcasters figured out, and we're still waiting to see what the CW is going to do with the Xfinity series and a couple more announcements. Greg, we've seen you be a guest analyst from time to time before. Any chance we get Greg Biffle on TV? I would love to hear Greg Biffle calling races. Is there any way we can make that happen, Greg?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've enjoyed being in the booth and doing some of the calling of the races, the Xfinity and the Cup cars. So I don't know. It's a lot of work for running the whole series. Maybe a guest appearance, but no, I mean it's it wouldn't be out of the question, but it's definitely, the guys talk about it. It's as much work as it is driving. It's a lot of commitment. So, but it's only half a season, right? So,
right,
you got two different networks.
Greg,
but it's a maybe.
Okay, Greg, you mentioned you've been in the booth before. Remind the folks who did you call races with? You worked with Adam, right? Or did you work with somebody else? What What races did you do?
Yeah, so I worked with Adam and co-hosted in different venues. I was in the booth with Michael and those guys and did the truck race at North Wilkesboro. So I've done, here and there, a bunch of different kind of guest appearances, if you will.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dominic, what do you think about this booth that Prime and TNT's putting together here?
No, I like it. I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Steve Letarte were a great pairing behind the wheel and top of the pit box. And I had said that from the very beginning when Jr. got hired by NBC in 18. You could just tell those two had good energy to feed off each other. It's like you were watching the race on the couch with them next to you. Kind of like how we talk about the Peyton Manning and Eli Manning brothers sitting down on the couch on those Monday Night Football broadcasts. I really felt like it was a lot of that, like that down to earth, like, hey, here's a lot of knowledge and we're going to share what we know with you. And this is what's happening at this point in the race. And Steve's very analytical. Dale Jr. giving that perspective from a driver. And then you're going to top that all off now with Adam Alexander. That's going to be an awesome booth.
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll do a great job. Before we go, let's get to our mailbag segment. You guys get us some questions to us each and every week. Star Podcast on Facebook and on X. Also by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. is where you can find us there. Our first question in the inbox this week comes from Melissa. Melissa wants to know, and this question, she says, is for Greg and the guys. What are your off-season plans? Are you traveling anywhere? Greg, let's start with you. What do you got going on during this off-season in your world? You going anywhere, doing anything?
Well, I'm traveling all over the place. Right now, I'm outside of Vegas at a sand dune area, Dumont Sand Dunes. We're filming some stuff with Kyle Busch and some of the Live Golf guys, and going to spend a couple days here. But just traveling for Thanksgiving, a few trips to the desert, hopefully a few fishing trips to the Bahamas. Get down there and catch some fish and catch some warm weather is the more important thing. But yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of traveling here and there. I always love to travel.
Love it. Chris, what's going on in your world, man?
Man, I'm kind of the opposite of Greg. I spend most of my year traveling. So when it's off season, it's like, man, I want to be home. And it's sitting down, writing music. We've got some studio time coming up for new songs, new album. We're going to be announcing soon. I've got some shows coming up with the old school band Three Dog Night. We're going to be opening some shows for them. I'm very excited about that. And so this off season for me is just getting our music reloaded and ready to hit the road again.
I like that. Dominic, what about you?
Yeah, to piggyback off Chris a little bit there. You guys know I play a little bit of music on the side, and I was telling Chris before we came on air tonight. I think there's a lot of inspiration you can draw from the people that you associate with and you work around, and seeing what Chris is doing, gracefully jumping from the NASCAR Truck Series to opening for Glenn Hughes and everything he does. It's definitely very inspiring. And in fact, Tyler, our little band that we used to have here in Northwest New Mexico, we're hitting the recording studio again next month, and we're making it a goal to get all our originals that we wrote over the years into the studio and professionally recorded and sound mixed. And so that's going to take up some of that time spending as far as hobbies and stuff. And of course, family time here, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of traveling now during this off season. How about you? Is there a winter of Jones in the mix?
Some might call it that. Not the fault of Jones. I'm off to Fayetteville, Arkansas this weekend. This is my weekend, folks. Off to Fayetteville, going to an Arkansas football and basketball game Friday, Saturday. Come back to Dallas to work NFL Sunday, and then I hop on a flight Sunday night to go to L.A. for the Chargers-Ravens game on Monday night, and then fly home Tuesday.
Wow.
So that's just me for the next few days, let alone what's ahead, but some other stuff in the works throughout the next few weeks, but certainly going to be a lot of fun. Greg, another question in the mailbag. This one comes from Patrick. Patrick wants to know, Greg, is there a book in the works in the potential near future? And what about maybe Dominic here potentially helping you out on this, Greg?
Yeah, definitely. I've been thinking about it, and I got to definitely do one before I forget too many more things that I have done in my life. So, yeah, definitely going to think about that as as my time gets freed up some more.
Well, I think Dominic would do a good job. He did a good job with the Jeff Bodine book, but Dom, I'll be honest, I think Greg's got a few more stories to tell maybe than Bodine did.
But well, and I think there'd be a lot more recent ones. And I can tell you too, Greg, it's really cool getting the feedback. So I told Jeff first we were going to take this on. He's like, people really want to read this, you think? And people really care about this? I'm like, oh yeah, they definitely would. And to see that feedback pour, you can tell there's definitely not only a market for it, but I think race fans really genuinely like to know what race car drivers did, their journey and how they get there, and they enjoy that. So I think there would definitely be a lot of people that would enjoy your story.
Well, I appreciate that.
Chris, would you read a Greg Biffle book, or would you have to settle for the audio book potentially?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not a qualified reader per se, but I do like audiobooks. You know, I mean, it's like unless the book has pictures. Now, let me back up a second. Now, let me just say, if this Greg Biffle book has old throwback pictures of race cars and stuff like that, I'm totally into stuff like that. I would read that book. Otherwise, yeah, it would have to be the audiobook.
Well, and I think Tyler Chris has got to write a book too. You go from racing on the NASCAR circuit to touring with Hall of Fame legends like he has. I think there's a story there in itself.
Yeah.
You know, man, I'll say this. It's been an honor. It's definitely been an honor to be almost famous, you know, rubbing elbows with the guys that are memorable. You know, man, that's a blessing. You know, never made the A list, but man, it's been a great ride for sure.
Greg, before we wrap up here, I know you got your foundation, obviously still doing a ton of stuff in North Carolina. Where could people connect and get involved and help out in the cause? What could people do to help out, man?
Well, we have the, you know, I've got the Biff Foundation, so it's the Biffle's Impact Fundraising Fund. If you go to gregbiffle.com, there's some information there about it. We've got Hurricane Helene shirts and all those things where we're selling some merchandise and donating 100% of those funds back for the people. We finally did a GoFundMe just simply I didn't want to, and I resisted for a tremendous amount of time, but there are unfortunately some bad apples out there. People raising money, send me money, Venmo, Cash App, all these things, and I'll go buy supplies and take them to folks. And so we, you know, I was close to a situation like that where, you know, some of our donated merchandise or supplies got taken out of our warehouse, and people raising money online for, you know, to go buy the very merchandise and deliver it to folks. So just be cautious about who you donate money to. Everybody online, you know, may have photos of delivering things and doing good things, but just please pay attention. These folks up there still need help, and they still need supplies, and they still need ongoing things. So, but I would just caution people to make sure you do your due diligence and get it to an organization, a person that's going to do the right thing.
Greg, thanks for being here with us, man, and just again, a thank you, I think, from all of us, from the NASCAR community to the nation, for just what you've done. I mean, just an incredible effort on your part, and just very grateful. I mean, it certainly doesn't go unnoticed, and I think I speak for all of us. We can't wait to see you back on the track someday soon too, man.
Man, I can't wait. It'll be good to get behind the wheel. I had a lot of fun last weekend, even though it was a fun race, but it was nice to get back in a car and competing.
Chris, appreciate you being here with us, man. What's next for you these days? Where can people connect with you and all that stuff, man?
You know, man, you can find me on all the social medias and on some street corners panhandling for money. These buses take a lot of diesel fuel to get down the road, so we got to do what we got to do. But yeah, man, I mean, it's all the regular social media, Facebook, Instagram. As always, man, listening to you guys, Tyler and Dominic, it's great what you guys are doing. And you guys have great guests like Greg here. So, man, it's an honor. It's my honor for sure.
Dominic, we're going to take some time off, enjoy the off season a little bit, but we do have some exciting stuff ahead in the very near future. So even though we're taking time away to enjoy some of the holidays in the off season, this show isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Absolutely. We're just getting started, as we like to say. We've been doing this now, can't believe 4 years, Tyler, but man, it's going to be a fun ride. We have a lot more that we want to do here, and there's a lot more guests we need to bring on and a lot more racing to chat about, especially during the racing season. But yeah, it'll be nice to take a few weeks off here, and we'll have some select shows throughout the off season too.
Yeah, certainly be a lot of fun. We'll put the checker flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing. For Greg Biffle, Chris Lafferty, and Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Make sure to subscribe to the show. New episodes on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Also, hit us up on email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, the Jones Report, Coach Bo Knows podcast, available on all podcast platforms. Appreciate y'all joining us, and we will see you next time right here on Let's Go Racing. So long, everybody.